Welcome to this eMammal video on how to fill out your vegetation data sheets. We're going to go through the entire the eMammal data sheet throughout this video and demonstrate how to collect each bit of information. Starting off with the top information, you'll see you've got your name, date. The most important is the location square number and the camera deployment number of your location, as well as making sure that you are accurately filling out your actual latitude and longitude in the field. This is the actual location where you place your camera after finding a suitable location. Next, just have a quick look around the location and write down a description. This area was open, grassy, and it was near a fence line. We're looking for any general description that you can provide about this location. Next, we'll be looking at the habitat type. On your deployment sheet, you were given a habitat type. We're going to be asking you to verify this for us. First, we need to figure out what type of tree. We'll look at deciduous, evergreen, and conifer. The deciduous trees have flat, thin leaves. They will fall off in the fall. They'll change colors. Those are the leaves that will determine a deciduous. The evergreen leaves are going to be thick, waxy. You can see these two leaves are shiny, and they will stay green all year round. The one that you might also come in contact with is the saw palmetto, which is an evergreen. The third is conifer. These are the long, thin needles. You think of as pine trees, small, scaly needles, but you'll see that they will have cones. The upland hardwood habitat is going to have a mix of different tree types, including a lot of evergreen and deciduous trees. This habitat is often going to be thick and possibly difficult to walk through. It's not going to be as open. The wetland habitat is going to be any place that has standing water. This area here looks like pine sandhill. It actually has pitcher plants. The pitcher plants are going to determine that it's quite wet. The pine sandhill habitat is going to be mostly pines, mostly longleaf pine in this area, also some other different pines. This is going to be intensely managed, so it's going to be wider open, more cleared, and often intensely burned in this region. The coastal upland is going to be right along the coastline, sand dunes, sea oat vegetation, etc. And lastly, the modified habitat is going to be anywhere humans have recently intervened. This area has been mowed, any farmland, backyards, etc. In our example camera site here, you can see there are pines, but there are also a lot of mixed vegetation, so we're going to call this one upland hardwood. The next section is the closest tree that is greater than 10 centimeters in diameter, which is one collar block on your 1 meter poles that you were given at the training, in each cardinal direction. This doesn't have to be true north, south, east, and west, but pick a direction, find the closest tree, and pace it out to find how far away that tree is. And you're going to need to identify the type of tree. Conifer has the thin needles and cones. Deciduous trees, big, thin, leafy trees that would probably fall off in the fall. Evergreen is something that is green all year round that is not a pine. Write down in each cardinal direction the closest tree type and how many meters away it is from the camera site. Next, you'll be measuring the size of the 10 closest trees at chest height. So you're going to actually walk out from the camera tree itself, and as Megan's doing here, measure each tree using your meter pole. Like I said before, the color blocks are each 10 centimeters, so you can estimate the centimeters of each tree, the diameter at chest height. And you'll be writing those down on your data sheet in centimeters. So they're all in centimeters. This one's 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters was the next tree, 2 centimeters was the next tree, etc., until you find the 10 closest trees to the camera location. The next thing we're going to be looking at is the shrub count. Now this is in 20-meter transects, east to west, north to south of the tree. You're going to go 10 meters out in one direction, holding your meter stick pole at waist height, and you're going to count each shrub or vegetation that actually touches your pole at waist height. You're going to be getting a count of each one and what type it is. This is a pine or conifer. that's hit at waist height. You're going to get an overall count, so 10 meters in one direction, go back in the opposite direction, the cardinal direction, do another 10 and count those up. So 15 total east to west. The dominant type was deciduous. If you have a tie in your shrub count, just pick whichever is the most dominant in the area. Next, you'll be collecting data on canopy and ground cover using your crosshair tool provided at the training. If you want to look straight up and align the crosshairs from the top and bottom and mark that point on your data sheet. The same at the bottom. The top we would have had green, and for ground cover we also would have had green because the crosshair was touching directly on vegetation. You'll do this in one direction at 4-meter intervals. So going if your cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, you can do 4 out to the north, 4 out to the east, 4 meters out to the west, and then 4 meters to the south, for a total of 16 measurement data points for each ground cover and canopy cover. We have the codes at the bottom: BA for bare soil, WO for wood, GR for green leaf, so anything leafy, WA for water, sky, black is if it's burnt, leaf litter is anything dead or decaying. We have LC for lichen or deer moss, and OT for other. The last part of your data sheet you fill out when you come back after 3 weeks to pick up your cameras. You fill on your camera retrieval date and was the camera working at pickup. A reminder, when you come to pick up your camera, when you find it, make sure you crouch down and get photos of yourself before you turn it off. When you open up the unit, you should see that it is actively taking photos of you because you've just set it off. And then you can go ahead and turn it off once you've verified that it is still working. Mark that on your sheet with the date. And yes, if it was working, or no, if you could not get it to take your photo. Lastly, this is just a reminder of how to pace out your own steps using the 1 meter. You can do one gigantic step as a gauge for 1 meter, or 2 smaller steps, whatever is more comfortable for you. Thank you for watching this video on how to fill out the eMammal vegetation data sheet.